Hello and welcome to another Fandom Feels Book Club. My name is Kate and I am from the fandom.net and I am here with Ellie,
Hi.
Natasha,
Hello.
and a new special guest for this week because he is also very excited about this book is Adam.
Hi, so happy to be here.
So we're going to start off by saying that you can follow along with the hashtag FandomFeels on Twitter. You can tweet us at FandomNet, and you can always leave us comments on YouTube, and we will check out what you have to say and add it into the show as we go. All right, so let's start with some general impressions on this book, because it's really different.
Wait.
So cool.
What book are we talking about?
Good question.
Well, you do the intros then.
No, I was no, we're
I know. We're talking about the book that Nat is holding up that is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline, which is this really great combination of futuristic and nostalgic, and it's a lot of fun. So let's get into some impressions.
impressions. First impression is I'm really old. Basically this is basically my childhood. The item, the games, the movies, music is all what I had listened to, played, and watched when I was growing up in high school. And so a lot of what he commented on, a lot of what he said, I definitely was able to remember. And so it didn't feel nostalgic. It felt nostalgic. It didn't feel futuristic to me because of that. But I did like it. I enjoyed a lot of the times that they were going through the game part. There was a lot of, I guess, info dumping, I would say, for me at least, because I guess for me it was info dumping because I already know all this stuff. But maybe for somebody who had not grown up during that time, it was very informational. So, aside from that, I actually enjoyed it a lot. And next.
Adam?
Sure. So, when I heard you were doing a Ready Player One fandom hangout, I couldn't resist signing up. This is actually my favorite book that I read this year. And I was a little surprised by that. I mean, I generally like these kinds of books. And I didn't even think it was necessarily the best written book I read this year, but there's just something about it that it was beyond not being able to put it down. I was thinking about it nonstop. When I woke up, having dreams about it. When I was at work, thinking about Wade Watts and this virtual world of the OASIS and what it might be like to live in it. And I don't know, I think there's a real talent for a storyteller to captivate someone that much. And from what I read, from other people's reactions, and obviously we'll see what you all think, I wasn't alone in feeling that way. So, I think that's a real credit to Ernest Cline. I'm so excited for the movie when it comes out. And, I'm sure we'll talk about it more as we go on, but I absolutely loved this book. Absolutely loved it.
Ellie?
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot about this book recently, and I've been wanting to read it just because everybody seemed to love it. And I'm not a gamer. I've never really been a gamer. I think I played like Crash Bandicoot growing up and Mario Brothers like twice, and that's pretty much the extent of my gaming knowledge. But I was obsessed with this book. It was insane. Like, I didn't know that much about the 80s that it all was about, because I don't exactly have memories of my couple of months in that decade. Sorry. But There was just, I can't even explain it. I think it was just how unique the book was. And the story, it was just so compelling. And I was blown away.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat that you guys had described, except I kind of hesitated because I was born at the tail end of the 80s also. But I was 2.5 when it ended. So I know most of the references. I'd say about 70% of them I was good on. But and for that reason alone, I knew that the book had a lot to do with the 80s. I was kind of like, meh, I can hold off on that because I don't really know it. It's not going to be as fun for me as it was for other people. This book was so much fun. Like, I just thoroughly enjoyed every minute of it. Starting with the OASIS, which is this massive, just virtual entity that has taken over society. Children attend school there. It's where your entire social life and all your friends and pretty much everything you could ever want to do in life you can do in the OASIS. Do you think that could ever be a real thing? Like, we already see virtual reality in minimal state, but do you think we could ever build up to that point where it's kind of taken over our lives?
Totally.
Yeah, I think so too. I told you I was thinking about it during work at night in the morning. I don't know. Isn't it crazy? Because on the one hand, it's such a cool thing that you feel like, how amazing would it be to be part of that? But then you also see how destructive it is to live in a world that's engrossed in it to the point of neglecting a real world that's just falling apart. So is it a good thing? I don't know the answer to that, but I think it could happen, maybe even in our lifetimes. I don't know.
I think, like, most of the individual parts of it already exist. Like, you can go to school online and have actual teachers there teaching you online. Kids do that. So it's not, like, the norm, but it happens. And, like, you can, obviously, there are all types of video games, and you can talk to people through the video games. So all it takes is, like, the next step of being more immersive, I guess. And, yeah, the scary thing is the way lines get blurred. And we haven't given our official spoiler warning yet, so I don't want to get into specifics. But, like, as you see, it's almost like human life is getting a little confused at times because they're so used to, like, video games where, yeah, you get hurt, but you're not really getting hurt. And that kind of starts to get a little confused.
What do you think, Kat?
Yeah, no, I totally believe that this can happen in real life. I mean, even in our, while we're still here, because, I mean, considering how fast, technology has grown since it started, as far as, the digital age, it's pretty advanced from where we began, like, 20, 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, it's definitely believable. I mean, at least that aspect of this world is believable. As far as full body immersion, I'm not sure about that, but definitely, I mean, like Ellie said, there's schools, there's classrooms now that go online. You can teach classes to students all around the world, and that's possible now. So for it to happen later on, as far as, like, full classrooms and all students and such, that's a possibility, especially considering what Wade had gone through as far as bullying and stuff like that. That's definitely a way to prevent that from happening, the online classes.
Mm-hmm.
And then, just all that. I mean, what we have with Facebook is definitely a start of what can happen in the future.
All right. And you did mention the spoiler warning, Ellie. I just wanted to say we do have a couple more fun questions before we dig into the really meaty portion, at which point I will give a full-on spoiler warning. But I think talking a little more about the various 80s nostalgia involved is not a full-on spoiler.
Right.
So, which of the 80s references
Uh-oh.
you guys actually remember, we'll say for Ellie, and which were your favorites?
I mean, I was 2 months old when the 80s ended, so...
Yeah, well, which were you
Kind of trickled onto past that, It did go into the 90s also.
What did?
The 80s kind of trickled into the 90s also.
Somebody else go. I'm like, did I know anything?
Just so you know, it's not like I'm that old here either, by the way. The 80s really were not my time either. I feel like to be a true 80s child, you really almost had to be like a teenager, because when I was born in December of 82, so basically 83. So most of the memories I have were as a really young child, but I will say one thing I remembered very well, which was so cool, was the section that featured war games, because I remember seeing that movie as a kid, and it probably was after it came out. I don't remember. I was probably older, but I remember thinking it was so cool that he could go in and change his grades because he knew the school password.
I know Matthew Broderick. I don't know that movie, though.
So that was probably my favorite reference, only because I remembered vividly the scene they were talking about, and that was so cool to just read through it that way. I hope it's in the movie, but I don't know if they can get the rights to that kind of thing.
Yeah, we've discussed that a lot, about whether they can use the movie segments in the film that they're making of Ready Player One. I really hope they can, or at least they'll find something that's equal in its nostalgia value to use. Though I really like the use of war games as well. That's not a movie I saw as a kid, though. But I do like a lot of the references, like Nat said, it kind of trickled. So Pac-Man and war games and
That I
things
know.
like that I didn't necessarily see until I was older. I do have some familiarity. That's the word, with Dungeons and Dragons. So I was like, oh, he was a geek in middle school too. Wonderful. All right, what about you, Nat? What was your favorite?
A lot of it was my favorite. War games is definitely one of my favorites. Actually, it was. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna date myself because just so you guys know, Halliday. I'm the same age as Halliday. Just so you guys.
Okay.
So everything that he mentions in the thing, I'm totally familiar with. I'm not as obsessed as him with all this stuff, but War Games was definitely one of my favorites growing up. War Games was, I can't remember what else he referenced now. I think a few of John Hughes' films, which you just kind of grew up watching. I don't know if you guys watch them even now, but they are still very classic, and they're really cool movies, so if you get a chance to watch them, you should.
Yeah, I watched almost all of them, but I don't know if I watched them when they came out. That's the difference.
No, obviously not, but I did. I watched them all.
That's cool, though.
I went to the theater, and, I actually watched them in the screens. I watched Goonies in the theater. I watched War Games, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, all that stuff. Watched in the theater. Movies were my thing back then, so, now books are my thing, but movies definitely are still a part of my life even now, so definitely.
Okay, so let's just have a theoretical moment, and which it's not just Nat who is Halliday. It is all of us, and we are.
I am not as eccentric as he is, but I definitely. Oh my gosh.
If
Yeah.
you
Okay. Let me. And can I just say that, funnily enough, I was the last person out of all of us to have read this book. I just read it like what 3 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago? I just read this book. I've had it for like a year, but I haven't read it until now. And sad to say that I don't know what kept me from reading it. I don't know if it's because it wants to make me feel old, but it doesn't make me feel old. I'm just saying that I definitely was lagging and reading it for whatever reason.
All right. So we'll get into a little more of the plot because this whole story is based around the eccentric, mega-rich creator of OASIS, James.
That's right. Definitely not James Halliday.
Okay, we will give you that. You're not quite so crazy.
Or rich.
But he builds this whole puzzle for everyone to solve, and it's all based around his childhood. And so if you were an eccentric billionaire and you were creating something similar, what are the big childhood things that you think you would include?
Is it bad? My first reaction was Titanic. But I feel like that would be really sad to live through, so probably not.
That would also be really challenging. That's like a
right?
movie.
You must survive Titanic. But not take somebody's spot on a lifeboat. Dobby. Sorry, that was my first reaction. I'm going to think some more now.
What about you guys? Just throw them out.
It's all in the book. For me.
Wait, what was the actual question? I got lost in the whole Titanic thing.
If you were, doing your own Halliday-esque.
Oh, right.
What things from your childhood? What would be the big
What
things?
movies or video games or TV shows would you use, I guess?
Sure. Seinfeld, I throw in there. I know that's a little different from this sort of thing, but there's still some humor in that.
Friends.
Lord of the Rings movies, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That goes without saying. I liked a lot of movies when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be hard to pick.
When I was a kid, I'd say the two big things for me.
Harry Potter?
Harry Potter. Harry Potter was probably the biggest thing that
I
started.
know, I'm surprised none of you did that first.
Wow.
Adam. And the other thing was Donkey Kong, the Super Nintendo version, which was the first video game that my parents were like, you need to stop playing now and come eat dinner. This is not okay.
That's so funny.
So I think those would be two big ones.
Oh, The Sims. I was obsessed with The Sims.
That would be fun for like a contest.
Yeah.
Did any of you play the King's Quest games ever? Like King's Quest 1 through 6?
I did not.
No? That would be. Then actually there's a new one that just came out after all these years. But yeah, that's probably something I would have jumped into.
I'm trying to think. Old school PC games. I think I'd have a few in there. Like, does anyone remember Commander Keen or Prince of Persia? Those were both very big ones in my house.
I mean, Prince of Persia, the movie that is that
The Jake Gyllenhaal.
It was a PC game in the early 90s.
Yeah, the movie is actually based on the PC game, I believe.
Yeah, except the PC game is good.
So there was The Sims when I was old enough to like really get into that stuff. Before that, my brother and sister got me into Sim Tower and Sim Town. Did anybody play either of those?
I'm trying to remember what Sims I actually played.
I think I just played the original game.
I think the others were first.
Okay, then I just played the version of the game that was the most popular.
Sim Tower was like you build a big tower, and you can have like hotels and restaurants, and you need to like make money to buy better restaurants and stuff.
Wow. I'm just like thinking, wow, compared to the games from the 80s, what was mentioned, that things have definitely changed as far as video games go.
They have them for every type of thing now.
Oh, I know.
I had a Mother Goose video game that like read nursery rhymes to me growing up.
You know what's hard for me to answer this question is because
Tamagotchi. Sorry.
It's okay.
That would totally be part of mine. Tamagotchi.
A lot of the things that I really liked when I was a kid were not necessarily current or came out at that time.
Yeah.
So, for instance, like Chronicles of Narnia, like that had been out for decades.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was obsessed with Isaac Asimov's Foundation series when I was in middle school. I remember, which is
Yep.
I don't know if you've all read that, but HBO's allegedly doing something with that with Christopher Nolan's brother. So I'm really excited about that.
Wow.
So we'll have to see. No, but there are a lot of things that my father. It's Star Wars. I was obsessed with Star Wars, but that wasn't 80s and 90s. Well, I guess Return of the Jedi was 1983,
definitely.
Was it? Something like that. Return of the Jedi was like early 80s, right?
I'm so glad nobody is mentioning the prequel trilogy. Right?
I was about to, and I'm like, wait, what year? Whatever.
It's not.
That was in the 90s.
That was in the early 2000s.
Was it?
No, it started in the 90s. You're right.
Yeah.
I think it was the 90s into the early 2000s. I just know the last one came out in 2004 or 2005 because I was already dating my husband at the time. But anyway, so now we're going to get to the point where we get a little deeper into the book. So if you haven't read it yet and you've just been here for the informative suggestion part of this all, thank you for coming. You need to leave.
You need to go actually read the book right now.
Yes, you really should. It's a great book.
You'll be done by Friday. Like you'll finish it back.
Unless you celebrate Yom Kippur and can't read on Wednesday.
Okay.
Had to throw that in there.
Let's move on.
Okay. So, moving on, let's talk about, we all love the book. We all love the quest. What was the best quest or challenge out of all of it, do you think?
For me, gosh, I just read it.
Is it weird if I say the first one? Only because, and I never played Joust or anything like that, but I think just because it was the first, it started the whole train of events, and just the fact that I remember being just so excited that here he is, this like downtrodden, the world is completely ignoring this person, and now he's the celebrity on top of the charts because he did that. And also meeting Artemis for the first time, of course. I liked that. So that was for me was actually my favorite quest. In no way discounting all the others, which were all wonderful.
Actually, I'm going to agree with you on that because I was thinking about Joust, and I used to play that game a lot growing up. I lived in LA for a time. And there was a liquor store in their corner, and that liquor store had 2 video games. So I would constantly, when I had time, go over there, and Joust was one of the games. And I was, like, obsessed with that. And, yeah, I don't know if you've ever seen it. If you haven't, you should look it up. look it up on YouTube and stuff, say Joust Arcade, and see how it plays. And it is funny now when I think about it, because you are riding on an ostrich, which is, you know, something that you don't think about. But you're like, okay, you're riding on an ostrich, you know, and you have to like bump these opposing NPRs just to get their eggs. It's such a funny game, but it was so fun playing it. I'm like, and it almost does make me feel like, man, how come they don't have games like that anymore? It's all about, you know, like these realistic, either, you know, war games that they're playing nowadays and stuff. But there's no quirky games like these. Well, there probably are, and I don't know about them, but really, these games in the 80s were so quirky, and it was so fun to play that Joust definitely is tops. It's like one of the best, for sure.
I keep coming up with stuff for my own personal thing. Oregon Trail just popped into my head.
Oh yes, that absolutely should be one. Oregon Trail.
Well, Oregon Trail was a classic even then, and they.
I know, but it was so good.
Did they talk about that in the book?
I don't think so.
There might have been a reference. I don't think it was discussed thoroughly, but there was probably a reference.
Maybe.
There were a lot of little references.
Yeah, there was like so, because when he's like, you know, like I said, there's a lot of info dumping, so there might have been a reference there. And he talks about how the start of these video games came about. So
I apologize for the rest of the show. I'm just randomly naming movies and games.
That's okay.
All right.
You're like, I just want to be in it. Okay, that's fine.
My favorite thing, like, out of all of them, and I don't, well, I do know why. It's because I was in the play when I was like 12, and it just made me the happiest person in the world when they're the three keys and the faith and hope and charity thing from Schoolhouse Rock.
Schoolhouse Rock.
For a generation that skipped Schoolhouse Rock, I watched a lot of Schoolhouse Rock.
That's awesome.
I need to watch that.
When they put that together, it was so cool. And it just made me so happy. It wasn't the most action-y sequence, but an action sequence followed shortly after, and it was exciting. Though I do agree that the first quest was great, because up to that point, like, the world was cool, but, you know, nothing was really happening. I could kind of take it or leave it. Like, it seemed cool, but I didn't know what it was about. And as soon as that took off, it was just like boom for the rest of the book.
Yeah.
For me, it was the War Games challenge, because, like, how cool would it be?
I know, right?
To be
in a
thrown
movie.
into, like, your favorite movie that you have memorized.
Play Harry Potter.
Right? I could be...
Or you could be Hermione.
I guess I could be Harry. No, I don't want to be Hermione. I guess I could be Harry. Or I could be, like, Katniss. Or... I don't want to be Rose.
Oh, you get to live!
Yeah.
Remember!
Yeah, if I'm Jack, does it mean I have to die to play his part?
Yeah, exactly.
Freezing? I don't want to be in freezing water.
But you get out of the movie faster that way, I guess. But yeah, that would be so cool.
Playing the game. I mean, that is actually really cool. I did like that. I don't remember word for word everything about War Games, but I do remember like a lot of the significant scenes. But I would have to watch the movie several times.
I totally have like TV shows and movies that I could probably do that with and get every line and action right.
Could you? Because I love movies, and, like, again, going back to Harry Potter, because that was my childhood, I have watched the Harry Potter movies probably about 1,000 times each. I still couldn't quote it word for word.
With Harry Potter, I could come very, very close. Degrassi. In high school, I was known as Degrassi Girl. I was still obsessed with Harry Potter, but not nearly as much as Degrassi. But, like, I could literally, like, I finished a final at one point, and I literally just sat down and watched an entire episode of Degrassi in my head. I was able to do that.
Oh man.
Probably do it with the Jedi.
You might have a better memory also than some of us too. That could be helping you too.
For that type of thing. I have a terrible memory for like facts.
Yeah, you do.
Okay. So getting back to the fact.
As evidence from my sucking at all the games we play at the end of these things.
All right. So getting back to the book and the fact that it is going to be a movie directed by Steven Spielberg, of all people, which, holy crap.
Aliens!
Neil.
Sorry.
How do we think they are, what are our guesses on how they're going to handle the virtual world versus the real world and the character descriptions? Because in the book, they are fairly different.
The only one that's super, super different is Paige.
The only one that's super, super different, but at the same time, even when Wade talks about himself, he's like, it's essentially me, except with a smaller nose and taller and with more. And
well, he just says with less weight and taller, I think.
He describes like a pretty solid change. He describes like several features within himself that he changes. He's
it's based on me, but like much better.
I think, well, no, I think because like the major thing that I found was that he was talking about his weight all the time and less pimply skin, less pimply face. So for the most part, I would just think that, and Kate and I discussed this before, but I would think that it's just the same person, just, you know, they can alter.
I want it.
You know,
I want it to be animated.
I think it could be like digital animation.
Yeah.
Or maybe a mix or a combination.
Right.
I think they're going to do something to make the Oasis world look clearly not quite real. Because obviously certain laws of gravity and such don't qualify. But you know, when you start thinking of this, sorry, I promise I won't go long on this thought, but in a really metaphysical way, like how do you know that everything that's in our lives isn't some matrix?
Oh my
That's
God,
another
stop.
one, The Matrix, by the way.
Stop.
That's another from our childhood. And we're not all just plugged into some machine, and that's what we're living around us right now. You know, the Oasis, the impression I got is that the Oasis feels as real as it can get, basically, when they're in there. So I think, so maybe there would be an advantage to, maybe they're the real actors, but it's a green screen and it's digital scenery behind them. I mean, if anyone could do it, I think it'd be Spielberg, effectively. But that's probably going to be the biggest challenge for the movie in terms of whether it's good or not, is if they can pull that off.
Yeah, I want, like, think of, like, very realistic-looking video games that we have today and just, like, put it up one little step. That's what I want it to look like. Like, almost like CGI people, but, like, almost real, but there's just, like, something off about them. If that makes sense.
It does, it does.
Well, you're looking at us through screens here in a Hangout. How do you know that it's not CGI us? Instead of the real.
CGI would be better quality.
That's true. It would be better quality.
I would have
CGI is way better right now.
I would have CGI shaved before doing that.
I mean, if you've seen some of the animation nowadays, it looks very realistic.
Yeah.
In the trailer for like the Jungle Book, I don't know if you all have seen that, but if you watch that, it's fairly realistic. And also The Good Dinosaur. Now, The Good Dinosaur, they have that thing where they're cartoony. The animals and stuff like that, and the creatures are very cartoonish, but the background itself is so realistic. You're like, did they actually film this somewhere and such? But if you haven't seen it, you should go see it and see how far we've gone as far as digital goes. So CGI, I mean, yeah, making the OASIS like a CGI effect would definitely be cool. But yeah, there has to the problem with that is that in movies they have to make the distinguish. They have to distinguish. Usually they have to distinguish between what's real and what's not real. I know they didn't do that in Inception, though.
Sorry.
They didn't do that in Inception.
But that was a dream.
Well, yeah, but it's the same idea. You know, because your dreams, even when you think about it, your dreams are not quite real. You know, things change, and you're like, what the heck?
Right. Well, that happens in it, but you're not dreaming in, like, cartoons.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Unless that's your dream.
Which it can be, but I mean, that's what I'm saying is that it's still as far as like movies go, they want people to distinguish between what's real and what's not real. The digital world, the video world, the OASIS.
Unless that's the point of it, that you can't.
But that's not the point of it.
Right, but right.
Yeah. So I have a feeling that they could make it as real as possible, but at the same time, I think they'll want to distinguish that video world, the virtual world, from
right, which is why I want it to be like cartoonish. very, very good cartoons.
You're thinking a little better than the Phantom Toll Booth for this sort of thing.
Maybe something like if you've seen video game movies,
like The Sims.
No, that's not what I'm.
But
I'm talking about like say.
Have you ever seen the Westfall short film Ruin?
Yeah.
It's all animated, but
yes,
extremely realistic.
Like that, or even like Final Fantasy type things, such like that, where a lot of it is very realistic.
Yeah, but it's still not quite.
So let's move on from here. We already have Artemis for the movie. That is going to be, if you don't know, Olivia Cooke, who is the dying girl in Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl. And it's a very good movie from what I hear, but I have not seen it yet. But anyway,
I saw it actually. She's very good in it. I thought. You did. Obviously, this would be a different kind of role, but I think based on the limited amount I saw, I'm pretty encouraged.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely a different film than Me and Earl and the Dying Girl.
We haven't even really heard any rumors for the other characters. So let's think about the characters, and if you have any ideas who you'd like to see.
Matthew Broderick. Just kidding.
No. Nat and I had actually talked about that for.
I know. While I was driving.
Toronto. We had said, wouldn't it be great for that character if they brought in like an 80s icon of some sort? But then, of course, like I said, if they brought in to Nat, if they brought in Matthew Broderick, they couldn't use the war game sequence because it would be too obvious. Unless they were to change his facial features.
They did it with Jeff Bridges in Tron, which that's a good example, by the way, of the kind of animation you might want for this world, like a Tron Legacy type of situation. I've got to tell you, I watched a screener for a Matthew Broderick film recently called Dirty Weekend, and it was really sad to watch Matthew Broderick. He is a far cry from Ferris Bueller. He's like a just kind of a, I don't know, he doesn't have that young exuberance anymore.
He might see this.
Sorry, Matthew.
But I do think for Nolan, I don't even know exactly who, but I feel like there needs to be an 80s throwback there. And for Og, too, who is James Halliday's friend.
I already know who I want for Og, and I said this, but and I can't remember his name now, but he was the guy who was a general or military head or something in War Games.
Oh, what was that guy's name?
But I was like thinking, oh my gosh, he could totally play Og.
The problem is you have to remember that this actually takes place in
2044.
right. So anyone that was actually in the 80s wouldn't be old enough.
Yeah,
Like, anyone that was actually a teenager in the 80s wouldn't be old enough.
He wasn't a kid in the movie.
Right. He was an adult.
Military.
They can make you look.
These things, come on.
They can make you look older
I was 2
too.
months old.
I know, but I'm trying to explain. He was a general.
I understand now.
Yeah, he was like the military.
I feel like Og will be a hard one because he's about 70, I believe, in the book. So
and that actor guy is about 70 right now.
But is he still working?
Yes, he is.
Oh, in which case?
He was on, I looked at his credentials. I think it was like either on Boardwalk Empire or something, but he was on a cable show. A popular one. So he is still working. So it's possible.
Okay.
Let's get into our youngins who are not as easy because you couldn't really have a throwback in there. What about for Wade? For me, that's a character that's really hard to
Yes, so hard. I've been thinking about it for months, and I really don't have like my it person. I almost want it to be someone I don't know, or maybe who's undiscovered.
I always want it to be someone I don't know.
Yeah, I think it needs to be an unknown or a barely known.
Yeah. Natasha has someone in mind, I can tell.
Well, because Wade is supposed to be, kind of large, heavy-set guy, he ends up losing weight later on and stuff. So, like, I was just thinking about, I've been watching Fear the Walking Dead. I don't know if any of you guys have been watching it. But there's
I haven't watched that one.
And his name is Tobias, and he's, like, kind of heavy-set and pimply faced, so I just immediately thought of him. That's the only one I can think of. But since you guys haven't watched Fear the Walking Dead, then never mind.
Maybe like a 10 years ago version of Jonah Hill or someone like that could have played that role. I don't know if he...
I'm trying to think of actors like that, and I can't.
It's so shocking, too, because, there are very few good-looking people in Hollywood. Usually it's always the dumpy, not as attractive people.
No, they're very...
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, too, and I especially want to ask this with H, who I'm going to get to next. Do you think people are actually going to stick with the full-on description? Because the way H is described, they kind of spell her out as morbidly obese. And I could see the movie, like, picking an actress who's thick then, going, oh, well, it still works. Like,
I don't know about morbid. Like, I seriously don't know about morbidly obese. He said she was heavy set. To me, that's a wide range.
Oh, I thought they had spelled it out as if she was very, very large.
No,
I was picturing her very large based on.
He described her as heavy set. But I mean, she was obviously able to drive and walk to the house and everything. So she wasn't. I don't know if she was morbidly obese. She could drive.
I think there's going to be two actors to play H too.
You think?
To me, I just think that
you don't think one person can easily pull that off?
Well, that's true, because I feel like H in the game is obviously going to be like, they're going to pick someone who seems very
cool
like
dude.
all-American bro-y.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the actress who will play Helen, who
it's going to be awesome.
A real-world character and awesome. And that's another one where
I love that moment when, like, she pulls up and he comes in the car, and she's just, like, looking at him like, how are you going to react?
Like, not really turning away from the steering wheel, still has a hand.
Yeah, just kind of like... I'm so excited.
Yeah.
We're still so far away.
I don't. It's really hard to figure. The other thing too is, are they going to do what often happens, where you cast people much older than the actual age to play these roles, or are they going to find real teenage? Well, I guess Wade is what, 18?
Yes.
Well,
Right.
they already cast Olivia Cook.
She's
Right.
not that old.
Right. She
Well,
looks
she's
the
in her
part.
early 20s, I
She
believe.
could definitely play that part.
Mm-hmm.
So we're probably looking. I feel like in Hollywood, anyone under the age of 25 is fair game to play an 18-year-old, and possibly
Yeah.
older depending on how young you are in the face.
I could
Maybe
play an 18-year-old.
even older. So, yeah, it's
That'd
possible. I mean, they do that. That's like standard for them, is finding somebody older to play a younger part. You have
Well,
to
then
learn
there's Grease.
the part. Very standard. Like I said, Beverly Hills 90210.
Late 30s.
The first Beverly Hills 90210. They were all much older than what they were playing and who they were playing. So that is
You,
not surprising.
you know someone who I did think maybe could play Wade, just throwing this out there, and I always am afraid of saying his name wrong, so it's one of the reasons why I don't say his name. It's like I can't remember what his name is no matter how many times I hear it. But Ansel Elgort, is that right? Did I say it right?
Yes.
Okay. I always forget.
Honestly, that honestly did cross my mind for like a second, and then I'm just like, no. I love Ansel, but no.
No, I think he's a great actor, but I think he would play a more self-assured character
Maybe he could be H.
than Wade is.
Video game H.
He could be video game H. Actually, I think he would be pretty great for that.
That would actually be awesome.
What about like a Nicholas Hoult type?
Did you just
I
see my
think the
face?
personality is there.
Well,
I think he's got range though, where he could. I mean, they could make him look a little bit less attractive, to play that role.
I feel like he's too old now.
Probably is. He has a young face though.
He does have a young face, but he is closer to 30, I believe. So, I don't know.
Josh Hutcherson.
I mean, he could play that role.
I would go for that all the way, don't you, Carol?
That
I'm just saying because, like, he just came out of Hunger Games. He probably doesn't have much. No, I'm just kidding. He does.
A couple years ago, that would totally have worked.
You know who else could play that role? But he was already in a movie about like a video game type of a movie called Gamer that didn't get much attention.
Okay.
Logan Lerman could maybe be Wade.
You mean Percy Jackson?
Yeah.
I could see he does need that big. Like, it's not that he hasn't had a breakout role. He has plenty of roles, but obviously I don't think he's had that big movie in which he starred.
The only one I could think of would be Perks of Being a Wallflower. That's the only one.
A lot of people love the Percy Jackson movies in theory, but they were not good. Like, let's give him a good movie in which to star.
That should have been his big role.
Yeah.
I thought he was great in it, though, in Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Perks of Being a Wallflower, he was incredible.
Like, I
hadn't
read that book, and that movie, like, tore at my soul when I saw the look of loneliness on his face.
I'm going to start crying. Let's move on.
All right, so let's get back to H. Or for either video game H or Helen, who did you guys have in mind?
I already said that I'd like the girl from Glee. I thought that she would be. She's not morbidly obese.
Mercedes?
She's still heavy set, but she's not, I think she could probably. I don't know. I haven't watched Glee in a long time, so I don't know anything about them. I don't know how they.
No, she has lost some weight, but you know what? Honestly, I will forgive it as long as they don't hire like a 6 foot skinny ass model to play Helen.
Well, yeah, I mean, the diversity still has to be there. So, if they get rid of that, then they lose the whole point of her.
Yeah.
No. I think I don't think the Wade thing is as important in her case as it is with Wade, because Wade is really supposed to be. It's a significant plot point that he's not in great shape and has to get himself in better shape. I think it's okay if she's like a I know what you mean. She shouldn't be model rail thin. She should, but she could be like a regular weight person, I think, and still have the same. I don't think they have to put up a casting sign that says anyone under 300 pounds need not apply, or something like that. Just because, like, is it that
200?
Mm-hmm.
Important?
No, 300. I said.
I know. I'm saying, but could it be 200?
I think the point. I think the important point is that she is female and she is black.
Yes.
So, because he,
And
he
not model thin.
he points out the fact of him, telling H all these, issues that he's had with girls and stuff, and not knowing that she was a girl already. So.
Yeah, but she's a lesbian, so it's okay.
Well, yeah, but
that's the thing that throws them off as well, is they talk about girls and they kind of hound on girls together, and
Lady
never
Hawk.
suspects.
Oh, Lady Hawk! Oh my gosh, that is like one of my favorite movies.
Lady Hawk.
Oh my gosh, another Matthew Broderick movie that was like awesome. That was the first time I've seen Michelle Pfeiffer, who I thought was so pretty in that movie. You guys have to watch that movie. Anyway, that's my whole Lady Hawk blurb. Thanks, Adam.
No, I actually, because after reading about it in this book, I was like, I've got to see this movie, and I meant to, and then I lost. It fell out the wagon, but now I'm reminded again to go see it.
Go watch it.
So
seriously, I mean, everything.
Michelle Pfeiffer, right?
It's so funny, yeah. Everything that they talk about, how Wade loves it, how H doesn't, and the thing that H says about it is so funny because it's true. But at the same time, I'm like, you love this movie. I mean, I love the movie, but it was just so. It was just one of those moments that I like. I completely forgot about Lady Hawk, but yeah, another reference to the 80s that I loved.
And Back to the Future. Let's not forget that.
Yeah.
Oh, of course not.
Which we know Ernest Cline loves so much that he bought it. He had he had not just one DeLorean, he had two DeLoreans.
He did?
He gave one away to the winner of the Easter egg contest.
Wasn't it, I forgot. Wasn't it that they were playing Donkey Kong? I can't remember now. Anyway, but yeah. Let's move on.
Sure.
Okay.
All right. So
You want to hit the last question, Kate?
all right. So I think we're pretty much at the wrap-up point. We had a fun question that I had skipped that we can come back to about if you had to face off with someone in an 80s video game challenge, what would you choose? Just real quick.
Or yeah, what game would you choose?
I would have to go with Pac-Man because it's probably the only one that I have some regular experience in.
Can we count like Sega Master System games? Because that was my first
I
console.
guess in your childhood, because I mean, a lot of these games are like, especially for Ellie and.
I'm sitting here like, oh.
You've played a video game console of some sort, Ellie. You've got to know one.
Crash Bandicoot, I said.
Okay, Crash Bandicoot.
Probably the game I played the most obsessively in my life was not even as a kid. I was a 21, 22-year-old kid in law school, rushing home from law class to play my roommate for 10 hours in Star Wars Battlefront. I got obsessed with that game. I would play that. That would be so much fun for me.
Cool.
What about you, Matt? Do you have one?
I had one. I played a lot when I was in college, but it was actually an 80s game. It was called Xevious. But
That
it was
sounds
like,
familiar, vaguely.
It was one of those, I forget what you call them, but you basically it was just a shooting game, but it was a rolling, I forget what you call it, but a rolling game where you just fly over the land and then you start shooting all these. And it was one of those, it's almost like similar to 1943, which they do talk about, I believe, in the, maybe not. But there's a game called 1943 and it's the same idea. But yeah, I love playing Exvius. And Tetris.
Oh, Carmen San Diego.
Yes,
In the
that would have been a big part of my holiday Easter egg.
They had a video game, Carmen San Diego?
There
Yeah.
was one.
I guess it wasn't really a video game.
There was a video game.
There
It's
was.
more of like a mystery solving game, but
Yeah.
it was awesome.
You needed to like talk to people and find out what they saw and put it
So
together
that you
and
could
figure out
find out
where
where
she
Carmen
is.
San Diego was.
Yeah.
Not
It
really.
was awesome. I played it like twice.
All right. So that aside, do we have any last thoughts before we wrap up?
Actually, if I could, there's one thing I wanted to say. I think, actually, for those people who are watching this, who maybe haven't read the book yet, the 80s references are wonderful, and as evidenced by Ellie and Kate and even me, you don't have to have been from that era to appreciate it. It's almost, even if it's not nostalgic, it's almost exciting in a fantastical sort of way to imagine living in an era before the internet and when there were arcades all over the place. But I think the thing that resonated with me the most from this story is very emblematic of what we're doing right now, which is the idea of people who have great personalities but have a hard time relating to the world outside. I'm not saying we have that problem, but
I do.
connecting virtually.
You're saying it a little bit, but it's true.
Virtually,
true.
because
We're
it's
here.
easier, and I think it was really an emblematic of the anonymity that some people feel comfortable with, and it's hard to really feel comfortable in your own skin and come out of your shell. And I thought it was just a beautiful portrayal of people who had a lot to offer the world, but the world just didn't notice, and they found a way to make an impact and discover themselves.
That's another thing, and we'll wrap this up, but basically that last part, the last chapter of the book, and he does talk about it in regards to meeting people in real life, as compared to like being always in that virtual world where he was almost to that point where that's all he lived, so it actually kind of like touched my heart in that way.
Me too.
The fact that he found these people, he found these friends, and he actually connected with them in real life and in person.
Oh, I've met all three of you in real life now. That makes me happy.
And then, and it's always, yeah, so basically don't lose touch with yourself.
It is kind of weird to think about that because we have all met in person, and it is because of the power of the internet and books and movies and stuff like that, and it's a crazy world, man.
Yeah, I mean, for a long time, the three of you were just email addresses, or and voices.
That's true.
Yeah.
And now we obviously know each other's faces very well, but, at one point, we were just like them.
Indeed.
I'm gonna cry.
So on that note, let's announce the book for next month, and we will wrap it up. So next month we will be having our chat. It's always the third Monday of the month, so it will be October 19th, and we are going to be discussing the book that Matt is holding up, which is The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Adia. And this one looks very creepy. It's based in ancient mysticism. It looks really cool. So we can't wait to read it, and we hope that you'll join us.
Cool.
But for now, we will bid you adieu. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thank you, everyone.
You're welcome.